Okay, welcome to the course on Big Data with Hadoop. As part of this course, today we will be dealing with input and output patterns. So, first of all, what we are going to do is we will see what are these input and output patterns. So, to begin with, as per our MapReduce, we do have an input file and we are expecting some output file after processing through MapReduce. And in the MapReduce, we do have two tasks. One is mapper task and the other one is reducer task. So, whatever input format which you are providing to mapper and whatever output which reducer is producing into output file, these we can customize input pattern and output pattern. These we can customize. If we do have certain requirement where we can have certain modification to the input pattern which has to be showcased to mapper, or the output pattern which has to be stored onto the output file. These we can handle. So, we will be discussing on this part as well as this part. So, to deal with this, we generally do have 4 classes, 2 for input pattern and 2 for output pattern, where we are going to deal with input format class and record reader. These are the 2 classes which is used to customize the input pattern, and whereas we do have output format and record writer for output pattern. So, let us have a detailed look at input format, record reader, output format and record writer. So, in order to have a customization of input and output formats, we can do it in 2 ways. One is through configuring your input chunks, how they are going to generated from the blocks, and second one is to handle the record reader which has to be passed through the mapper phase. For handling these 2 things, we do have 4 classes: record reader, input format, output format and record writer. To move with input format, here we are going to have 3 different jobs which input format is going to be performing. One, it validates the configuration of the job, how a job is being configured, and second, it will split the blocks into logical chunks to formulate input splits which are assigned to the map task for further processing. And the third job which input format is meant for is to create the record reader for the implementation of creating key value pairs from the input split. So, here we are going to focus on 3 major things. One, to validate the configuration of the job. Second, to formulate the logical chunks from the blocks and which are in the type of input splits. And lastly, record reader, to implement the record reader to convert the input splits into key value pairs, and these key value pairs are going to be sent to the mapper phase. So, these are the 3 essential job roles which input format is going to be carrying out. The most common thing in order to create the input split from or logical chunks from the file is a subclass of file input format. A subclass of file input format is being used. A subclass of file input format is being used. And what is that subclass? Generally we use it as text input format. If you are going with output formats, instead of file input we are going to have file output, and instead of text input format we will have text output format that we are going to come across. And using this class we will be validating or we will be ensuring the configuration of a job. First, suppose what we are going to validate is whether the file which is located at a certain path is a valid path or not, on which the job has to execute. That validation is going to be done first, validating the job configuration, such as the path of a file, whether it exists in the exists or not. Second thing, it creates the input splits, and then it implements the record reader. How the input splits are going to be driven? Based on the file size. How these input splits are going to be logically formulated? Based on the size of a particular block. If you are taking the size of a block, if you are considering 64 megabytes is the default size of a block, then how input splits are going to be managing it logically is, it will maximally split a particular block as an input split max to max 64 megabytes, not more than that. It will not cross the boundary of a record. Whereas coming to record reader, it will cross the boundary of the block size. How we are going to see it in our next slide. Because always it is not meant that always the bytes which are going to be used by the record reader, it will end up in a line format. Just like if we are creating any split, if suppose there will be a partition over here, if this entire record is treated as 64 megabytes and physically it will split over here, whereas from here it gets into next block of 64 megabyte. But logically this is a single word. The boundary of a particular input split will not logically make it out. So record reader will recognize it and it will make it as a one word by either making this UE to be moved into the first block or else VAL to be moved into the second block. That shifting, that logical splitting is going to be managed by line record reader, which is also a subclass of text input format itself, so that the bytes are going to be adjusted according to the logical submissions. And to make it out, we generally use two methods. One is get splits and the other one is create record reader. These are the two abstract methods which we will be using to make that particular possible. Moving further, we will be having record reader. In record reader, if you are using file based input, then start is the index to start where the file starts its generation of key value pairs, and end is the index to stop the reading of records. And coming to record reader, we do have certain 5 abstract classes. One is initialize, second one is get current key and get current value. Initialize is a method where you are going to initialize the creation of or assignment of input splits to the map task. And get current key and get current value will iterate over the key value pairs of an input splits, and it generates and displays the current key and value. Next key, it just moves throughout the key value pairs of a particular file. And progress, it is an optional method where you are going to get the current status of or progress of a particular job execution. Close will be called when you are going to finish up with all the key value pairs. Similarly, we do for output format, as I said you that as per the input format we had used text input format. For output format we are going to use text output formats. As in input format, we had 3 jobs to be done by the input format. One to validate the job, second one to create the input splits, and third one to create the key value pairs through the record reader. Over here in output format, we do have 2 jobs to be executed. One to validate the configuration of job, and second to write the records to a file. To do this, as in input format we had used file input, or here we are going to use file output format. Coming to the subclass of file input output format is text output format, which is used to store your key value pairs, to either to the HDFS directory or to any external source. We use text output format. It is not binded that your output needs to be stored onto HDFS. You can store it into any of the other output formats or output sources. And over here, each reduce task writes its individual part. Just like if we do have n number of reducers which are working, each reducer will write its part to the output file. This reducer R1 will write its part, R2 will write its part, Rn will write its part of output to the output file or output directory, and basically the output which is going to be generated will be part R 5 times 0. If there is one more output part, then 1. This indicates how many reducers are working parallelly. This is a files which are going to be generated in a particular output directory. Along with that, the text output format, first it validates whether the output file is existing or not. If it is existing, then it will overwrite the output file, or else it may throw you an error saying that output file already exists. If not, then it creates one and it will start writing its output of key value pairs. Just like in input format, we do have line record reader to read the lines in key value pair. In output format, we do have write line record writer for writing our output files. Whereas moving further, here in output format abstract class, we do have 3 abstract classes which we are going to use to manage all those things, to validate the job configuration where it has to write a output file. For that, check output spec is a abstract class which we are going to use to validate the things. To write the output to a output file, we will be using get record writer, and get output committer is a class which will be called once all the key value pairs are returned to the output file. Then committer is the method which we will be calling to just intimate the job tracker that my job has been done. Coming to record writer, record writer is an abstract class which is used especially for writing key value pairs into a file system or any other file system wherever you want to store your output. Unlike record reader, record writer initializes its phase automatically, whereas any of the parameters which we are to give to the record writer, we will be using output format dot get record writer class. And in record writer, we will be having 2 abstract classes. One is write and the other one is close. Using write, we will be writing our output, that is key value pairs, to a output file. Using close, we will be closing the writing of key value pairs. This will be called only once when your entire key value pairs has once written to the file. This close method will be called to just clean up the buffer. Thank you.